Hi, this is HG from HG Learning Center. Welcome to another episode of Breaktime ESL. Today, we're going to talk about 5 ways that we use synonyms in English. Before we get to that, though, first of all, what are synonyms? Synonyms are words that have similar meanings. They're often adjectives. Of course, they don't always have to be adjectives. They can be nouns, verbs, adverbs, etc. They can be basically any sets of words that have the same or almost the same, close to the same meaning. We have learned that synonyms aren't always adjectives, but we are going to focus on synonyms that are adjectives for this episode. This is because adjectives are the most typical and the most used of synonyms or words that have similar meanings. So what are some examples? Let's look at some examples. Let's look at this list here. Cold and freezing. Warm and cozy. Cozy means being very comfortable and very warm at the same time. Mild and lukewarm. Both means not so hot and not too cold, somewhere in the middle. Hot and sizzling. Sizzling means like when you're grilling steak or meat and the smokes are coming out. Small and petite. Big and buff. Buff means someone with a muscular build. Now that we know what synonyms are, the next question is, why should we care? Why are synonyms useful? What are some of the common and useful ways to use synonyms in English? Well, synonyms are useful in a number of ways, which I will get into discussing in more detail later on when we explain each of the 5 ways for using synonyms in English. But generally speaking, synonyms are useful because they help us to explain things better. We can use synonyms to call attention to something important, which also means to emphasize something. We can also use synonyms to show strong emotion, like agreeing or disagreeing with something. Use of synonyms can also help us describe things better because some adjectives are more descriptive than others. So without further ado, let's get into the first of the 5 ways we can use synonyms in English. One of the most obvious things is that using synonyms helps us with emphasis. Emphasis means the act of pointing out something important. And what better way to do that than to repeat something? So, using synonyms or 2 words of similar meaning side by side helps to make that detail more memorable or easier for it to stick in your mind. To see what I mean, let's look at these 2 sentences here. He is a good dancer. He is a good and talented dancer. We put emphasis on the adjective good by placing another adjective, a synonym that has similar meaning to good, talented, besides the word good, to emphasize that he is a very good dancer. Next up, let's look at the second way we can use synonyms in English, which is to add details. Like I said before, some adjectives are more descriptive than others. For example, hot and sizzling both describe something that is hot, but with sizzling, you can see smoke rising out, while with the word hot, you just get a feel for the temperature. To see what I mean, let's look at 2 more sentences here. She is a friendly neighbor. She is a friendly, helpful neighbor. Again, when we look at the adjective friendly, this word describes someone who is nice and says hello, and that's about it. But when we add the second adjective, helpful, which is a synonym to the first word, friendly, we get a more detailed description of someone who lends a hand when you're in trouble. Like when your hands are full of grocery, she might offer to take one of your bags off of your hands and help you carry it upstairs. So the synonym helpful, the second adjective, adds a detail that you cannot achieve with just saying that she is someone who is friendly. Now let's look at the third way that we can use synonyms in English. We can use a simpler adjective to explain a more complex adjective. For example, words like exhilarating are complex, but we can also say happy. It means the same thing, but it is much easier to understand. So we can pair the two together, and one will be the explanation of another. This is commonly used in writings and also in speech in English. Again, we will look at two sentences to see what I mean. He is in a somber mood. He is in a somber or sad mood. Here, somber and sad are synonyms. They mean the same thing. And somber is a more complicated adjective, while sad is simpler and easier for people to understand. So we pair the two together and connect the two with the conjunction word or to indicate that these words mean the same thing. And in this way, we can use sad to explain the more complicated adjective somber. Moving on, we now look at the fourth way for using synonyms in English. We can use synonyms to make stronger agreements and disagreements. This also has to do with what we talked about in the beginning, with using synonyms for emphasis or pointing out something important. Your argument sounds stronger when you repeat the important points. And one way to do this is by ending your argument with two adjectives that describe exactly why you agree or disagree with something. Now let's look at these four sentences here. Yes, that is correct. This is a simple statement agreeing to something. Yes, that is correct and right on point. Right on point means exactly right. This sentence is a much stronger agreement because you're repeating why you agree with something, because it's exactly right or right on point. No, that is wrong. This again is a simple statement to disagree about something. It is not very strong. No, that is wrong and unfair. When you add the word unfair, which is a synonym for the word wrong, that describes the reason why you disagree. And this makes it a much stronger disagreement than just simply saying, no, that is wrong. So finally, we get to the fifth way that we could use synonyms in English. That is to show progression. Progression means going from simple to complex, like when we count from 1 to 10. Adjectives also have different degrees of description. For example, we could say that a chair is hard, sturdy, and unbreakable. With the word hard, we get the description for the chair's surface. With the word sturdy, we get a feeling for how the chair can hold up weight. With the word unbreakable, this describes what the material the chair is made of. For example, steel or something else that cannot break easily. Just like always, we're going to look at sample sentences to see what I mean. Let's look at the first sentence. The neon lights were shiny. Neon lights shine in the dark, so we describe them as shiny. Shiny is a simple adjective used to describe things that shine. Now let's look at the second sentence. The neon lights went from shiny to bright. Here we use the prepositions from, to. This is often how we describe changes of location or progress of something. I went from the park to the school. I went from not speaking any English to speaking everyday English. The word bright is a synonym to the adjective shiny, but it is a degree higher in description. It is a stronger adjective. A star is shiny, but the sun is bright. Now let's look at the third sentence. The neon lights went from shiny to bright to dazzling. Again, you'll notice that we use the prepositions from, to. There is an extra preposition to at the end. The adjective shiny is the first degree of description. The adjective bright is a degree higher, a little stronger. And finally, the adjective dazzling is the third degree, the strongest degree of describing something that shines brightly to the point of almost hurting your eyes. A star is shiny, the sun is bright, diamonds are dazzling. That's it for this episode. Remember, we can use synonyms to emphasize or repeat something that is important. We can use synonyms to add details or describe something better. We can use synonyms to explain a complicated word that is not readily understood by everyone. We can use synonyms to agree or disagree and explain the main reason for the agreement or disagreement. We can use synonyms to show progression, which is like saying 1 to 2 to 3, but in adjectives. If you like this video, please click that thumbs up button. If you would like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.